Daniel 𝗵𝘂𝗃 didn't remember the cab driver's face afterward. Not right away, anyway. What he remembered first was the smell. Rainwater. Wet leather seats. That sharp, minty smell hospitals seem to stick to people even after they leave. Funny what the brain holds on to. Because 3 months later, when reporters started asking why his freight company was suddenly losing millions of dollars a week, when drivers across Illinois and Indiana quietly stopped accepting overnight routes, when warehouses backed up so badly that retailers threatened lawsuits, Daniel still hadn't connected any of it to that cab ride in Chicago. Not until somebody said the driver's name out loud. Marcus Reed. Then suddenly the whole night came back in pieces. The rain. The coughing kid. The wallet. And that look on the driver's face. Not angry, which somehow made it worse. The ride itself wasn't dramatic. That's the uncomfortable part. People imagine life-changing moments sounding cinematic, loud, obvious. Most of them aren't. Most bad things begin with somebody tired deciding another human being doesn't matter for 5 minutes. Daniel had left a finance dinner downtown later than expected. The meeting went badly. Investors wanted reassurance he couldn't honestly give them anymore. Mercer Freight Systems was expanding too fast. Everybody inside the company knew it. But publicly, Daniel kept smiling through interviews and talking about historic growth. That phrase alone probably made half his employees want to punch drywall. By the time he got into the cab, he'd been awake almost 20 hours. His phone wouldn't stop vibrating. A distribution center outside Joliet was short on drivers again. Someone from compliance wanted him to review an accident report. Another union complaint. Another delay. Another problem. He slid into the back seat, already irritated at the world. Oakmont Hotel. The driver nodded once.
No fake friendliness.
No, how's your night going? Daniel preferred that. The cab pulled into traffic slowly. Too slowly. Outside, rainwater smeared the city lights into long, blurry streaks. A cyclist cut between lanes. Horns echoed somewhere farther down the block. Then Daniel noticed the kid asleep in the front seat. Maybe 10 years old. Skinny. A Cubs hoodie pulled over his head. The driver caught him looking. "My son," he said quietly. Couldn't leave him alone tonight. Daniel gave a distracted nod and went back to his phone. Honestly, he barely saw the guy at first. That sounds terrible now, but it's true. People in Daniel's world got used to filtering workers into categories instead of personalities. Driver.
Cashier.
Security. Useful background. Nothing more. "You can take lower whacker," Daniel muttered after a minute. "It's faster." "Flooded tonight," the driver replied. Daniel sighed softly through his nose. Already annoyed. Not really at the driver. At everything. At the company. At investors. At his father, somehow, even 6 years after the funeral. Especially his father. Richard Mercer had built the company from nothing and spent Daniel's entire childhood acting like exhaustion was proof of character. If employees are comfortable, he used to say, management's failing. Daniel hated how often he still heard that sentence in his own head. The kid suddenly started coughing. Not normal coughing either. The kind where your whole body tightens trying to breathe through it. The driver immediately reached over. "Easy, Eli.
Slow down."
The boy nodded weakly.
"Sorry."
"You don't apologize for that." The driver's voice changed when he talked to the kid.
Softer.
Warmer. Daniel looked out the window. For some reason, tenderness between parents and children always made him weirdly uncomfortable lately. Maybe because he hadn't called his own daughter in almost 2 weeks. When they reached the Oakmont, rain hammered the sidewalk so hard it bounced back upward. A valet jogged over with an umbrella. Daniel shoved his phone into his pocket and opened the cab door hard enough to shake the vehicle. The kid startled awake immediately. The driver turned halfway around. "Hey, easy with the door, please." Not rude, just tired. Daniel was already standing outside. "It's fine." The driver rolled the window down slightly. "Fares 38. Daniel stared at him through the rain. Something about the guy's tone irritated him again.
Calm. Steady.
Like he wasn't impressed by expensive watches or hotel entrances or any of it. Daniel reached for his wallet. Nothing. Checked another pocket. Still nothing. Then the driver quietly held it up from beside the seat. You left this. Daniel took it quickly and opened it immediately. A reflex. Checking.
Cards. Cash.
Everything there. But the second he did it, he saw the driver's expression change. Very slightly. That was the moment. Not the argument. Not the money.
That.
Because the driver realized Daniel's first instinct wasn't gratitude. It was suspicion. Daniel felt embarrassed for maybe half a second, then covered it with irritation instead. How much did you say? 38. Daniel handed him 2 20s. Whatever. The driver took the bills silently, and Daniel started walking toward the hotel entrance before the kid's voice stopped him. Dad, small voice. Half awake. Why was he mad at you? Daniel kept walking, but he heard the answer. Some people got heavy things in their heads, the driver said quietly. Don't carry it home with you. Daniel remembered that line later. A lot later. The problems at Mercer Freight got worse fast after that. Drivers started rejecting overnight routes in groups. Nothing official. That's what scared management. No strike. No press conference.
No demands.
Just quiet resistance. Warehouse workers slowed loading times. Mechanics suddenly became extremely strict about safety checks. Dispatchers stopped covering extra shifts for free. Tiny delays everywhere. Tiny acts of refusal. And because freight systems run on timing more than people realize, tiny delays spread like infection. Within weeks, regional contracts were behind schedule, then national ones. Daniel screamed through meetings almost daily. We increased pay last year. Nobody answered. One executive finally muttered, "People are burned out." Daniel snapped back immediately. Everybody's burned out. And honestly, that sentence right there probably explained his entire leadership style. He genuinely believed suffering was normal, necessary even, because it always had been for him. The name 𝗵𝗂𝐸𝐻 Reed came up during a staffing call. At first, Daniel didn't react. Then slowly. Wait, the cab driver? The room went quiet. You know 𝗵𝗂𝐸𝐻? Somebody asked. Daniel ignored the question. What's his involvement? The operations director leaned back carefully. He used to head the Midwest Freight Workers Coalition. Daniel frowned. That union guy? Former union guy. What happened? Nobody answered immediately. Then, there was an accident years ago. 3 dock workers died during a night shift. 𝗵𝗂𝐸𝐻 blamed himself for not pushing safety complaints harder. Daniel looked down at the table. And now? The director shrugged. He's still respected. Why? This time the answer came quickly. Because people trust him. Simple as that. No corporate language.
No presentation slides.
Just trust. Something Daniel suddenly realized nobody inside Mercer Freight really felt toward him anymore. He found 𝗵𝗂𝐸𝐻 again by accident almost 2 weeks later. St. Mary's Hospital. South Side. Nearly midnight. Daniel had gone there to visit a regional manager recovering from a stroke. He spotted 𝗵𝗂𝐸𝐻 near the vending machines holding 2 paper coffee cups. For a second, neither man spoke. 𝗵𝗂𝐻𝐻 actually looked surprised. Then tired. Long way from downtown hotels, he said. Daniel glanced toward the elevators. My manager's upstairs. 𝗵𝗂𝐻𝐻 nodded once. My son, too. Daniel looked around at the hospital waiting area. People sleeping in chairs. Half-dead vending machines humming against the walls. A woman quietly crying into a phone near the entrance. He suddenly remembered the smell from the cab. Hospital smell. 𝗵𝗂𝐻𝐻 held out 1 coffee. Daniel hesitated, then took it. First time either of them had willingly accepted something from the other. Funny detail, but important. You're organizing drivers against me, Daniel said eventually. 𝗵𝗂𝐻𝐻 shook his head.
No.
They're organizing themselves. I just listen. That's convenient. 𝗵𝗂𝐻𝐻 gave a tired little shrug. Maybe. Daniel studied him for a second. You really think my company's that bad? 𝗵𝗂𝐻𝐻 didn't answer immediately. That pause mattered, because people telling the truth usually pause before saying painful things. I think, 𝗵𝗂𝐻𝐻 said slowly, that somewhere along the way you stopped seeing tired people as human beings. Not angry, not dramatic, just honest. And Daniel hated how accurate it sounded. Then Eli appeared in the hallway holding an apple juice bottle. He looked thinner than before. The kid noticed Daniel immediately. Oh, he said quietly. Marcus stood up. You should be sleeping. I tried. Then Eli looked at Daniel again. Kids do this thing where they stare directly at uncomfortable truths adults avoid. You're the wallet guy. Daniel blinked. The what? The wallet guy. Marcus rubbed his forehead tiredly. Eli, but the kid kept going. You thought my dad stole your money. Daniel opened his mouth. No response came out. Because technically, yeah, he had. The hallway got very quiet. Eli looked down at the juice bottle. My dad drove around for like an hour after your ride. Marcus looked embarrassed now. That's enough. But Eli shrugged. He gets quiet when people are mean to him. That one landed hard. Not because it was dramatic. Because it sounded like something a kid had noticed a long time ago. Daniel looked at Marcus then. Really looked at him. The exhaustion. The coffee-stained jacket. The hospital wristband tucked into his pocket from visitor check-ins. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt something unfamiliar during a business conflict. Shame, without defensiveness attached to it. Just shame. Mercer Freight announced reforms a month later. Mandatory rest periods. Safety oversight. Healthcare expansion. Reduced route quotas. Investors hated it. Some executives quietly called Daniel soft behind his back. But the slowdown stopped. Drivers returned. And life moved on the way it usually does. Messily. Without dramatic endings. A year later, Daniel was leaving O'Hare during another storm when he climbed into a cab and noticed the driver rubbing his eyes hard at a red light. Long shift. Daniel asked. The driver laughed tiredly. Man, too long. Daniel looked out at the snow for a second, then nodded slowly. Yeah, he said. That'll do it to you. That was it. Not some giant redemption speech. Just a man finally understanding something he should have learned years earlier. That exhaustion changes people. Humiliation stays with people. And respect? Respect is usually remembered most by the people who almost never receive it.